The moment I saw the bank alert pop up on my phone, my heart dropped. It wasn't the usual transaction, no groceries, no utilities, not even an indulgent shopping spree at one of her favorite boutiques. It was a withdrawal, and not just a minor one. She'd emptied the account. Our account. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the notification. 63, 452, 75, gone. I rubbed my temples, trying to piece together how we'd gone from exchanging anniversary gifts last year to this. It didn't take a genius to figure out where the money had gone, or, more accurately, to whom it had gone. For months, I'd ignored the signs, the late nights, the whispered phone calls, the sudden obsession with her appearance. I'd convinced myself I was imagining things, but now I had all the proof I needed. She was cheating, and she had the audacity to fund her betrayal with my hard-earned money. For the next hour, I sat in the house we'd built together, letting the anger churn inside me. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the audacity, the callousness of it all. When the rage finally settled into a cold, sharp resolve, I knew exactly what I needed to do. If she thought she could rob me blind and ride off into the sunset with her lover, she had another thing coming. First, I needed information. Over the years, I'd become something of a tech enthusiast, and I knew my way around her devices. She was careless, always using the same password for everything. It took me less than an hour to access her email. Sure enough, there they were. Messages between her and her lover, Brad. Of course, it had to be a Brad. The messages were nauseatingly saccharine. Promises of a future together, discussions of where they'd vacation once everything was finalized. He was nothing special. Just a gym rat with a penchant for get-rich-quick schemes and a social media presence that screamed, "I peaked in high school." But the emails provided more than just confirmation. They gave me his address. And better yet, they detailed their plans. She'd wired him the money, and they were planning to meet up in 2 days to start their new life together. I smirked. They wouldn't see me coming. The next morning, I paid a visit to my lawyer. Andrew had been a friend since college, and I'd helped him get his first big case years ago. Now it was time for him to return the favor. I laid out everything I'd uncovered, and his eyes widened as I explained. "She emptied your account?" he asked, incredulous. "And you have proof she sent it to him?" I nodded. "Every last transaction. I've already frozen our joint accounts and redirected all my paychecks to a new one." Andrew leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "You're entitled to half of everything she's trying to take. More, actually, considering the fraud. This is going to get messy for her." "Good," I said. "Messy is exactly what I want." That evening, I put the next phase of my plan into motion. I'd learned enough about Brad from his social media posts and email exchanges to know he wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind. He had a few debts, some unpaid credit cards, and, most importantly, an outstanding warrant for failure to appear in court over a DUI. With a little digging, I found the local precinct's tip line and made an anonymous call. "Yeah, there's a guy at address who's got an outstanding warrant. Brad McAllister. Pretty sure he's planning to skip town soon," I told the dispatcher. I'd embellished just enough to make it seem urgent, and they promised to look into it immediately. The next day, I set the final trap. I knew my wife and Brad were meeting at a secluded little Airbnb in the countryside. It was supposed to be their romantic getaway before they fled together. Thanks to her emails, I had the address and the reservation details. It was time to make sure their romance ended with a bang. Using a burner phone, I contacted the owner of the Airbnb, pretending to be a concerned neighbor. "Hi, I think you should know there's been some suspicious activity at your property. A lot of people coming and going at odd hours. Could be a party house," I said. Airbnb owners hate parties. By the time I hung up, the owner was furious and vowed to confront the renters immediately. When the day finally arrived, I parked a safe distance from the Airbnb and waited. Sure enough, I saw them arrive together. Her in the car I'd bought, him swaggering like he owned the place. They had no idea what was about to hit them. First came the police. 2 squad cars pulled up, officers spilling out with arrest warrants for Brad. The look on his face as they cuffed him was priceless. My wife stood frozen, sputtering excuses, but they ignored her. As the officers dragged Brad away, The Airbnb owner pulled up, yelling about damages and violations of their rental agreement. She was livid, and my wife, now alone, had to bear the brunt of it. I waited until the dust settled before making my presence known. She was standing in the driveway, staring at the retreating police cars, when I stepped out of the shadows. "Enjoying your little getaway?" I asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. Her eyes widened in shock. "You, what are you doing here?" "Cleaning up your mess," I said. "Oh, and don't bother coming home. The locks are changed and your things are already packed. You can pick them up from Andrew's office." She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. "Save it. I've already filed for divorce. And just so you know, every penny you sent him is being reclaimed." "Fraud, sweetheart. Look it up." Her face went pale. I turned and walked away, feeling lighter than I had in months. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled for her. Andrew made sure the divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. She ended up with nothing but the clothes on her back. Brad, on the other hand, was facing jail time for his warrant, and the money she'd stolen from me was tied up in legal battles. As for me, I moved on. I sold the house, took the money, and started fresh in a new city. The satisfaction of seeing them both fall apart was the closure I needed. In the end, I didn't just survive their betrayal, I thrived because of it.